Oh, welcome to Conversations with Dr. Harriet and our special guest, Unnia Pettus. Dr. Unnia Pettus, how are you?
Hello, Dr. Harriet Roberson. I am fine. It's a pleasure to be with Welcome with Conversations with you.
Oh, I'm so glad, so happy that you were able to join us. I know you have such a busy schedule, and I just appreciate you taking time out to come with us here on to the Conversations with Dr. Harriet, right? So for
Absolutely.
those few people who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, just briefly, I am a single ministry leader. I have a ministry called Nobody But God Ministries, which is a domestic violence outreach and sexual assault outreach ministry based in Washington, D.C. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a firm called Pettus PR. So if you need your publicity done, especially for faith-based businesses, I've been doing that for about 17 years. I'm a professor. Most recently at Howard University. I've been there more than 10 years. And most importantly, I'm a child of God. I'm a servant. I love the Lord. And I just happen to have a grace on my life where I've survived a lot of things which should have
Yeah.
killed me.
And we're going to be talking about your survival stories as well. So, our topic for today is From Tears to Triumph, Overcoming Domestic Violence. But before we do so, there's so many other things I want to talk to you about. First of all, I know you have a book. Tell us about your book.
Yes, I have a book. It's called Nobody But God, A Journey of Faith from Tears to Triumph. This book came out in 2007 when the Lord birthed the ministry, Nobody But God Ministries. And the reason why it's titled Nobody But God is because literally, in order to try to escape an abusive marriage to my pastor husband, I tried to take my own life. And
Mm,
yeah, I tried to commit suicide. I was hospitalized, put in a mental ward, lost just total focus of who I was, didn't know my name, didn't know Bill Clinton was
wow.
president. And God allowed me to do therapy, file for separation, and I divorced him, ladies. And
Oh,
at the end of it, God said, Unia, I want you to share your story. I was so ashamed, Dr. Harriet. I said, no one can know this except immediate family. And, some of the church folk found out because he announced that, I went crazy, but they didn't know why. They didn't know why I tried to harm myself because I kept it all in and nobody but God knew the secret. And that was 6 years
wow.
of private abuse and thinking that I could pray the abuse away, thinking that it was something about me that I could change and be better. So that's why I'm such a fervent advocate throughout the year to talk about things that impact our ladies and young girls and also men. Men are also victims of domestic violence. People
Right.
don't realize it. There are women who are doing some horrific things to some of their husbands and spouses. And I'm here to say, no, love doesn't mean hurt. And you should never put your hands on anyone. You shouldn't emotionally or verbally abuse anyone. We're all God's children.
Okay, wow. And they can find your book on Amazon, or where can they find
Yes,
your
you
book?
can find it on Amazon, but most importantly, you can go to my website,
Okay.
unniapettus.com, UNNIAPETTUS.com. I'm currently writing my second book called Overcomer. So I'm asking people to not purchase this one because it's sold out several times. I want them to wait for Overcomer because I'm going to kind of overlap. When it's your memoir, your life continues in stages. So I want them to see where I am now and what the Lord has done.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm so excited about your future and everything that you have to give and how much you have to share with the world. And I know I'm excited to be a part of it and excited to help you share your story.
Thank
So
you.
I know we're talking about overcoming domestic violence, but I want to talk about really quick. Did you're a four-time breast cancer survivor or
No,
cancer survivor?
four-time cancer
Cancer
survivor.
survivor.
Yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that as well.
Well, just briefly, it's a 20-year history. Immediately the year after I graduated from college and filed for my divorce, that June 2004, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And after that, I had abdominal obstructions because once they take the majority of your colon out, which what they did for me is called a total colectomy, you're going to always, when I eat, food is not going to always process all the way through. And so I've had 8 abdominal obstructions. So I've spent a lot of years and months in the hospital this past 20 years. In 2018, something very unusual happened. I was hit with back-to-back cancer. July of 2018, I was diagnosed with gynecological cancer. They did a complete hysterectomy. A year later, July 2019, I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And while out recovering from kidney cancer, if you can believe this, I found a lump in my breast in the shower.
No.
And literally, when I felt the lump, I immediately knew it was cancer. Cancer runs in my family, it's genetic. And unfortunately, you can't pick your genes, but we can certainly pick our God. And when I felt it, I said, Lord, please don't do this. Please, God, I've just gone through gynecologic cancer. I've just had the tumor off my kidney taken off. I'm still out with that. And now I felt this lump and I just knew that it was cancer. So I called my oncology team. They did all the tests, the biopsies, the ultrasound, the MRI. And sure enough, it came back very aggressive form. It's called invasive ductal carcinoma, HER2 positive. And people jokingly call me a female Job, and I actually accept the title in a way because God has told me over and over again, when I say, God, why have I had to go through so many things? He's always said, I've offered you up because you praised me all the way through it. And you let people know that no matter what is brought to them or what situations that they have to endure, that if they bring me along through the process, I'll make it easier. And so I
No.
know that God does not take take us through things to make us, I don't think he takes us through things to make us like these tough, brutal soldiers on the army of the Lord and all these kind of things, to be mean and all that. I think he chooses certain soldiers for certain assignments. And those of us who he chooses for certain assignments, I consider myself a faith sniper. I can speak to any
Wow.
existence, and I consider myself a faith sniper because I've been in a hospice 3 times. During COVID, I was in a nursing home twice. This was before the vaccine. I didn't have anyone there to hold my hand during the chemo treatments and all of that. But I said, God, I want to be so precise in the spirit that I can pray for everybody around me. I want to be so precise in the spirit, Heavenly Father, that I can speak to this mountain, the root, the infirmity, whatever this is that is causing this cancer to keep reoccurring in my body. God, it stops right here. And I had to tell the devil, and I tell him every morning, that he has no control over my body, that God created me. And yes, things happen to us, but it's not me. I'm not cancer. I'm not domestic violence. I am still Unnia Pettus, and I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And I want everyone to be encouraged that no matter what you're going through, you can lose your job, you can go through divorce, you can be a single parent and not have anyone assisting you with child support. My mother raised me by herself with no help. Whatever the circumstance is, if you keep God as the focus, when he literally says, keep your mind stayed on me, I'm a living, breathing witness. I don't look like anything I've been through. And
Right.
that's only because I keep God as a primary focus. He is the primary focus in everything I do. Nothing comes before God. And I just want him to use me. And he told me that he would use me to speak to the masses and to the thousands, because people need to be encouraged that even now God still heals.
That is so good. And I love that you said how you said that, how God brought you from the tears to the triumph, and that it may not be cancer that you're going through in your life, but it may be a divorce you're going through, maybe a
Absolutely.
loss of a family member, grief that you're going
Absolutely.
through. It may be a loss of a job, a loss of a home, or whatever, but God is still faithful. And
Adversity is
I love that.
adversity. We're all losing something, and people, they don't realize I'm still grieving body parts that were taken away. And
Mhm.
I'm being very transparent. And that's one thing about me, I'm very transparent.
Right.
When they're taking off your breast, you don't feel as good about yourself.
Right.
Doing a hysterectomy and your hormones are going through all these changes and all the things that they have to medically do to be aggressive to treat the cancer. When they leave you, I look at my body sometimes in the mirror and I just see all these scars. And then I have to say, you know what, God, those are battlefield scars. Every scar and every cut and every wound is a proof that you didn't just leave me on the surgery table. Hallelujah. You didn't just leave me in my bed of affliction. Every scar proves that you rose me up. And every scar proves that you're still a healer. Another thing that I went through is a stroke. And it was by a nurse's mistake. This is really interesting. I want you to hear this in your spirit. She was cleaning my Metaport, and it had a blood clot. And so they're supposed to put the solution in and wait 30 or 40 minutes. But she wanted to run to be with her colleague for lunch. So she said, well, I'm just going to do it a little early, 10 minutes. She didn't think that would be a big difference. Well, when she pushed in the solution, which is called Alteplase, the blood clot immediately went to my brain. I had a stroke right there in the chair. And people ask whatever happened to the nurse, because my mom wanted her to be fired. All my friends and family were like, she needs to be written up. I definitely talked to the union and told them that she changed my life forever. I couldn't speak. I was paralyzed on the right side. I said, but I'm not mad at you. If I can forgive my husband who abused me, if I can forgive someone who took me through all the things that he did, I can forgive you because you just made a human error. But I told her, I want you to remember me every time you go approach a nurse, a patient, and remember that your little decision can impact me for the rest of my life. I'm still weak on the right side, but I'm not in the wheelchair anymore and I'm not paralyzed. But her decision of rushing and just a little bit of, human error can impact you forever. But it taught me even more about forgiveness, and it taught me how to walk in it. Even as I was learning how to speak again and to walk, I was frustrated. I was mad. I cried. I did all of those things. I'm going to be 100 with you. But one thing I didn't do was quit. I'm not a quitter.
Oh, okay. You're not a quitter. I love that. Quitting is not an option, right?
Quitting is not
Absolutely
an
not
option.
an option. Well, I know we're talking about today tears to triumph, and you overcame domestic violence. Tell us a little bit about your story, how much ever you'd like to share.
Just well, I can just tell you, at 27, I met a gentleman who we used to work together. He was a minister. We dated. I love the fact that he was committed to me, to being celibate and holy before the Lord. I didn't even think that was possible to find a guy who was on the same spiritual link as
Right.
me.
Yeah.
I knew God was calling me to something. I didn't know it was ministry, but I knew he was setting me apart. And so we worked for a young lady who was the mayor of DC at the time. She lost the position for reelection. So I just lost my job. We saw each other at a party. Long story short, he invited me out. We dated for about a year before he proposed. He was a wonderful boyfriend, a phenomenal fiance. Then we got married. On the day of our wedding, which I had a bridal party of 48, I had 17 girls, we had
Wow.
17 guys. We had celebrities in it. It was like the wedding for DC of the summer, because we both worked for the mayor. We knew all these people. He was an alpha. I was a delta. So it was just everybody was in our wedding. That afternoon, when I came to the hotel suite, he literally shut the door in my face, Dr. Harriet, and said, "Did you wear that dress for them or for me? You've embarrassed
Ooh.
me." And he cursed me out. I ran down to the desk, the little concierge desk in the hotel. This is our hotel. And I'm like, oh my God, my mother's here. People are going to see me in my gown and say, "Unnia, why are you in the hallway?" So I told her I need another room. My husband and I had just had an argument. I still have my veil on my head. She's looking at me like, "You just got
Wow.
married." And so I called him and called him. He never picked up the phone till around 3 that morning. And I said, "Babe, what's going on?" And he said, "You now are my property." He quoted Ephesians 5:22 and 24. And he said, "You're to be submissive to me in all things." And he said, "I don't want anybody ever seeing any flesh on you." I literally just had this part of my shoulder. I had long gloves, a long dress. He was just literally not a person I even knew at that point. And then he told me, "Get ready, come back here at 6 because we're going to church at 7." We hadn't planned to go to church the next morning. I figured God would give us a okay for one Sunday miss since we just got married. But we went to church, and this is the part where I made the mistake, Dr. Harriet. I sat beside him in church, and the whole time he's holding my hand, and everyone's complimenting us on how beautiful the wedding was and all of those things. I didn't know who he was. I literally was like, who's the person that shut me out the hotel room? And this is a person I'm gonna have to catch a flight with to the Bahamas for my honeymoon. What's gonna happen out the country? I was scared to death. I didn't know who he was anymore. Now, one thing that's a backdrop, I married him and he needed a kidney. A lot of my friends said, he was only 31. He had hypertension. His kidneys failed. And they were like, "Girl, I will not marry somebody sick." And I was so in love. I said, well, if I marry him, if I was going to marry him, I'm going to marry him anyway. If he's sick, God will heal him, and if God doesn't heal him or he doesn't get his kidney, I'm still going to love him. He's still my husband.
Right.
So the reason why I thought he started acting so deranged was because he was so upset with God that he was on dialysis and that it was just taking so much of him. He wasn't able to work as much. So I just kept blaming on when he gets his kidney, he's going to treat me better. The first 2 and 3 years in the marriage, he cursed me out all the time. He isolated me. I was working on my doctoral program full time. He would take my work. He would bleach my books. He would do whatever he could to destroy my work because he did not
Wow.
want me to have a PhD and he didn't have a master's. He said no woman should have more than their man. So it was always a battle. In the third year, he got his kidney. I thought everything was going to be fine. Okay, God, he's got his kidney. He's going to be back to the man I fell in love with. Well, that's when he had the strength to beat me and to kick me downstairs and to break my ribs. And that's when the hospital visits just started. We would circulate the DC metropolitan area because I couldn't keep going to the same ERs with this I fell again story. It just became horrific. He started having affairs. And in the 6th year, I tried to kill myself. I took an overdose of pills, sleeping pills, pills from a surgery that he had recently had for hernia. It was called Percocet. I crunched them up with applesauce. The devil just took my mind. When this third person who had had an affair called and told me, we sit back and laugh in the bed talking about you, I snapped. When they tell you that the devil cannot, when people say, oh, the devil's not real, things can't happen, you can literally lose your mind. I'm a living witness. And I lost it. And I tried to commit suicide. He found me at home. He took me to the hospital. They did the charcoal, resuscitated me, and immediately put me into psychiatric care. And I was in there for quite a long time. I did therapy. I decided during the therapy to be honest about what had happened. I told my mom, I told my family. They were like, oh my God, we would have hurt him a long time ago. We would have kicked him out the house. We thought that, my uncles and everything, like, that's an easy one. We would, he wouldn't have been there.
They had no idea.
They had no idea. And I said, I knew that you guys would break us up. I didn't want the marriage to be over. I just wanted the abuse to stop. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
People don't understand when you love and you love hard. I've never been married before. My mother never been married. I believed, in sickness and health, for better, for worse. And I just literally thought that if I told them, they would break us up. And that was more devastating to me than even losing my life.
Wow. Isn't that something? And so he was a pastor?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was sitting in the pulpit beside him. He was interim and he was acting. I was sitting in the pulpit beside him some Sundays. He would just preach the church down. He was very good at being a pastor. He was very good at being a youth leader. He, ministry was a part of his call. And after the first year of marriage, he allowed me, and I use the word allowed, he allowed me to do my initial sermon, and I became a minister. So we were like Ken and Barbie. We looked good together. We operated well in the spirit, which is still something today I don't fully understand. It's amazing how God can still use you despite of you. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And so God would use us mightily together, and people were very encouraged by us. They loved the fact that I was sticking by him, early 30s, and he needed a kidney. And God just really used us mightily for ministry, but for marriage, it was the most toxic situation you could ever be in. And my mother said I start wearing a lot of makeup under my eyes. I wore sunglasses in the wintertime. Do you think anyone ever asked me, Dr. Harriet, was pastor beating me or was something wrong? No. And I honestly say they didn't care, or they just wanted to not see it. Because of my complexion, if my mother could notice things were different, and she kept asking, are you okay? I said, Mom, just stressed out. I just need more coffee. I just, school and all of these things going on. But I never told anyone, never told one person, because I was afraid that he would lose the church. I was afraid I would lose my husband. And I was embarrassed. I'm going to be honest. I had pride. I didn't want to be a failure. I've always been a straight A student, accomplished many things. And so I did not want anyone to say, yeah, you had that big fairy tale wedding, but your marriage is horrible. And that's what it really was.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something as far as people not wanting people to know what
Mhm.
they're going through. My husband and I kind of laughed at earlier today. We were talking about how, we would argue the entire way to church, get out of the car, and we would go inside church and it's, praise the Lord. We're
Absolutely.
blessed and highly favored, and get
Absolutely.
right
I'm
back
too
in the
blessed to be stressed.
car. And we get back in the car and finish the argument. And
Mhm.
people never knew that we were actually having issues because we didn't want people to know. It was embarrassing for, you to be having marital problems. That happens to everybody else. It shouldn't be happening to you, the perfect looking couple. So I think a
Absolutely.
lot of people, especially in ministry,
Yes.
hide. And I think that from what I've seen, first ladies are some of the most abused people in the world, and
Yes.
it really is like, the husband is frustrated, the pastor husband is upset, frustrated. Who is he going to take it out on? He
Take it
can't.
out on the
He
wife.
can't beat up.
Absolutely.
He can't beat up the deacons, you know. So the wife is the one who has to take the brunt of the abuse. What would you say to a woman? And we're running out of time already, but what would you say to a woman who was in your position? You know,
Well,
what
just
kind of
I have
encouragement
these
to give
five
her?
eyes that tell people to look out for their red flags. So if this is something that you can say, I got two or three of these or four of these, then you're in an abusive relationship and you need to call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE. The first is isolation. He isolated me from all my family and friends. He made sure that it was just our bubble. And I thought he was just being extra attentive. And even my friends would say, oh, he just really loves you. When I went somewhere, he'd check on me. I had to call him when I was coming back. But that was him isolating me so that I couldn't share the truth of what was going on. The second thing is um, intimidation. He kept threatening me that he would kill me. He would hurt my mom. I'm an only child. My mom was my world. And he said he would put sugar in her gas tank, that she'd have an accident. If you ever try to leave me, you mess up my ministry because, you have to have the perfect first lady and the perfect pastor. And you
Right.
have to have this young, cute couple walking into ministry. And so he kept saying that if he lost any of this, that he would kill me. The next is interrogation. They'll constantly ask you all kinds of questions. So they're isolating you, they're
Wow.
intimidating you, saying, Harriet, you better call me at 10 o'clock when you get in the house. Oh, and you better wear this, you better not wear that. Then they'll just irrational. They'll just ask a bunch of questions and just act crazy. So four is the rationalization. They'll say, Harriet, you can say I was with my sister. They'll call your sister. Say, was she with you? What did you do? What movie did you see? What salad did she have? Just totally absurd behavior. And then the five is the incident of escalated abuse. Mine went from
Wow.
verbal and emotional to physical. So there are five eyes. They isolate you, they intimidate you, they interrogate you, then they're irrational, then the incident of abuse, whatever abuse is going on. It could be them taking your phone or hurting your dog or isolating you from your children, locking you in the bedroom, raping you if they're your husband or your boyfriend or whatever it is, it goes to the next level. That's when you look in their eyes and you don't even recognize that person anymore. They become a monster to you.
Wow. Wow. And so we're just encouraging people to look out for the red flag.
Look out for the red
Yeah.
flags. When you see the red flag, this is not like Daytona. It's more than Daytona. You want to
Right.
get off that racetrack because it's only going to get worse.
Wow. And so even for singles who are dating, I mean, I know singles who are having issues already. And
Right.
it's like, why are you marrying this person if you're already having these issues? Why are you going to the next level? You think it's going to get better once you get married?
And
Talk
we
to
did
those
a ye- we
talk to
did a
those singles for a second.
Yeah, and I'm one of those singles. I've been divorced now since 2003, and I'll say to you, as I say to myself, Unnia, you're worth it. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. You deserve to be treated like the princess and the queen that you are. I'll also say to the woman, the way you're allowing yourself to be treated in front of your girl or your son or your daughter is the way they'll calculate love. So
Wow.
if you're allowing your loved one to hit you, then your daughter is going to think, oh, when my man hits me, he does just like daddy did mommy. He loves me. And also the boy might say, oh, if I really love Laquita, I'm going to hit her. So you need to not just stay get out for yourself, you have to get out for your children, because generational curses will continue to follow. But love yourself, know the word of God, know your worth, and make people treat you the way you want to be treated. And
That's so
I
good.
hope that I've encouraged somebody to reevaluate their relationships, because you can also set boundaries with friends who are emotionally and verbally abusive, or who take up too much of your time. This is about setting boundaries. You need for people to respect you, respect your space, and respect the goals and the ministry that you have before you, and the purpose that you were born for. Jeremiah 29:11. We all have a destiny. Don't let anybody block you from your destiny, sis.
That is so good. And so give us that national hotline number again as well.
Yes, it's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE. And to reach me, please go to my website. It's www.unniapettus.com, Unnia Pettus. And to follow me on social media, it's Dr. Unnia Pettus. I'm here. Reach out to me. I can get you connected with resources to help you escape safely and plan your escape. And everything from going to court with you to getting childcare taken care of. You are not alone. And thank you, Dr. Harriet, for this opportunity, because we just don't know whose life we're changing.
That's right. Absolutely. So make sure you definitely contact her. Also, she's an amazing conference speaker. If you're having a conference, invite her to your conference as well. She could talk about so many different things, not just being a domestic violence, survivor, but cancer survivor, stroke survivor, motivational speaker. She is an amazing person, and so she has a wealth of information. So make sure to go to her site and go to her social media pages as well, and check her out. Also, I wanted to even say, for those who are dealing with domestic violence, and really quick, I know we're out of time, but can you tell us a little bit about how you got out?
Yes. When I was admitted to the psych ward, and I was able to finally confess what had been happening, the reason why I tried to kill myself, my therapist, they told me that I needed to tell, my family and my circle. And I thought they were going to be so ashamed of me and deject me, but they did quite the opposite. They were like, why did you suffer in silence? And, they wish they could have helped. So I got out by getting therapy. I literally moved out of my house, moved in with my mother, because I wanted to separate myself from him. So I did that for a year, and then I filed for the divorce. I was my own attorney. I went before the judge. I told the judge what he had been doing to me. The judge asked him, was that true? He said, no, Your Honor, she's crazy. Oh, did I tell you she tried to kill herself? See, he would always tell people that, and that was my shame. And even now, people want to make that my shame, but that's not my shame.
No,
That's
not
a
at
part
all.
of what God delivered me from. And mental health is serious, and Black people, we need therapy. Therapy is wonderful. Therapy and Jesus got me to where I am today, because
That's
I was
great.
able to understand and process that I just wanted to be loved. I didn't have a father who loved me, so I wanted this one man who said, for better or worse, I was willing to do anything so that he would keep loving me.
Wow. So we're just encouraging people just to tell. I mean, tell
Absolutely. Tell,
somebody. Don't
and
keep
then
it to
seek
yourself.
help. Remember, I had a therapist. Seek help,
Seek
and
help.
then leave. Plan your escape and leave. I moved in with my mother to separate myself. My mother became, he wasn't going to go call and harass me with my mother,
Right.
and then I filed for divorce. I had to walk away. And there's still people today who talk about me, churches who said they'd never have me preach in their pulpits and all these things, because, you can't talk about the men of God. But there's so many first ladies out there. I can't even tell you how many I know who wish they could leave and who wish they could speak up, but they choose to stay. So pray for
Right.
them as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Unnia Pettus,
you,
Dr. Unnia Pettus.
Dr. Harriet.
I'm so excited about your story, and that you're able to share your story, that you're alive to
Yes.
share your story. How many women didn't make it?
How
And
many
so
women?
from tears to triumph. And so I just know that God has so much in store for you. I'm looking
Bless
forward to your
God.
new books. I'm looking forward to your speaking engagements. I'm
Yes.
looking
Please
forward
book
to seeing
me. Go
your
to my
work.
website and book me, please.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you coming on our show and taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us right here on Conversation Conversations with Dr. Harriet. Remember, today only happens once, so make it amazing. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you again. I just appreciate you, and I speak blessings over your life and
Hallelujah. I
blessings over
received
your
that.
ministry. And I just know you're helping women all over the world and
Yes.
men, right? And women and men all
And
over
men.
the world.
I received
Amen.
that.
Amen. Well, thank you again. Oh, shout out to Duran, our friend Duran, who
Yes, my little brother, Duran Short. Thank you so
Yes.
much for this divine connection. To meet you, Dr. Harriet, is an honor and an answered prayer.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.